Call to order the town of Dayton's joint meeting of the Library Building Committee and Library Board of Trustees. It's Thursday, August 1st, 2024 at 1:01. We're meeting at 1111 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. This is a hybrid meeting, which means that only people here have to give us their names. So I'm going to start with Ron as always.
Ron O'Connor, co-chair.
Mark Rocket, library director.
James Aguirre, building official. Kenny Pacheco, co-chair.
Jonathan Gallen, ATA coordinator.
And we have.
Mark Tavares.
Thank you. Nicole.
Nicole Mello, Selectman.
Thank you.
Call to order the meeting of the Library Board of Trustees. Ron O'Connor, chair.
Ed Menson, trustee. Rita Russo, trustee.
Could we please stand?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The next agenda item is review, comment, input on the 30% design drawing. Understanding of more information. We did. Who wants to enlighten us? You can start. I can start? Yes. Okay, so yes, I did receive an email from Chris with some drawings. I reviewed the drawings. They were incomplete by 30% standards. However, they were a step in the right direction. After receiving those plans in the state that they were, it sort of sparked a deeper conversation with Mark and I, and we had a meeting with Ron and Administrator Purcell about maybe having a deeper conversation about how this relationship is evolving here, because we've all talked ad nauseum about how this thing keeps getting delayed. And based on the latest submission, I don't see it getting any better. So I don't know if we want to delve right into that discussion, but it might be a good opportunity.
Yeah. Unless that, we could jump to point. No.
Yeah, well, it's combination of. Yep. I don't know what options we have, so I guess that's what I need to know. Maybe yeah, I really think it's going to be a discussion, and in the end, we'll come up with what I think is best for the project and for the town. I've said numerous times dealing with this firm that I have great concerns about meeting our deadlines. And, as Mark has said fairly eloquently, that, we can't keep telling people year. We're now into the end of next year before we can even open. So that's 10 months past where we thought we'd be. I found out today also that the equipment that they spec'd for the HVAC unit as proposed, the single RTU exterior unit, has a 16-week lead time. And MMT is going back to the drawing board because the unit they spec'd is out of as of yesterday. They're no longer available. So they're going back for new equipment here in the 11th hour. So that's another issue. In my opinion, the system that they're proposing is flawed. I'm certainly not questioning the architects for reasoning for bringing it up. It may be what the industry does, but I can just tell you from real world scenarios, having a single unit in the library, I have concerns about the building being able to stay open if we have an issue with the HVAC system. And then Mark has said, which is something I didn't think of, humidity control is important in this building. So if we have a unit down and we have no parts for a few weeks, even if we can still staff the building, we have maybe concerns with humidity control, which is another issue.
You heard what's happening in Plainville with their library? HVAC system out close for a month.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's a brand new one.
Right. So have we expressed our concerns with MMT about the 1 unit versus? They're standing by it. But don't we have an input on that? We can. My concern with that right now is shifting gears with a company that hasn't fulfilled their obligations is only going to further exacerbate the problem. So, this was floated yesterday, and I certainly don't want to take control, but I'll just brief you all on what happened. The consensus yesterday in the small meeting we had was maybe we let MMT give us what they're having, which is 100% drawings. Even if they're not perfect, we cut ties with MMT. We no longer work with them. I have drawings in hand that I can hire subcontractors with, meaning that if we use the Dayton plumber, the Dayton electrician, even if we go out to bid, I think the bid set will be accurate enough that we can do that. And then have a deep discussion about the HVAC. I would like an expert to weigh in. I don't want to own this solely myself. I would like an expert in those systems to weigh in as how they feel about it. I did place a call before I came in with someone who is a factory rep for Mitsubishi, which is what these units are, and explained to him how I felt the system should be designed, and he completely agreed with me. So I think I'm on track, but I would like someone with an engineering degree to back me up. So that said, it's not great, but it might give us some closure and a way to move forward on a path that we end up with a building that we want, not a building that someone else wants us to have. That's my concern.
Jim, can I ask you, with the 30% that we have now, which I'm hearing you say really doesn't appear to be 30%, maybe 20% or whatever, plus at best, what kind of timeline could we be looking at to get to the 100%? I mean, that could be 6 months again. And then the other side of it is, if we eventually let them get to 100%, unless the acting TA high by the way of John, or you or the acting TA can flex some muscle there. If we get a theoretical 100% from that, but it's really 60%, then why are we paying for 100% when money's only going to get tighter as it is? Is there a way, is it possible, I guess, to somehow segue out of this contract at this point? Or is it, or are we too deep into it to get something?
That's a good question, Jonathan. I did give that a lot of thought. I think right now, if we were to cut ties with them for breach of contract or whatever you want to call it, starting over with someone new would put us back much further than we'd be if we just saw this through with MMT. I certainly want to speak for the town administrator, but also discussed yesterday was perhaps giving MMT a solid deadline that they need to adhere to, and that call would be placed by Jim. So we were hoping to discuss that and see if that's something the committee wanted to do, was to give MMT a strict deadline of when they needed to provide us the 100% drawings, seeing as how they've missed targets now several times. The latest target date for 100% drawings was tomorrow.
Yes. And that was in an email MMT sent mid-June. They said it should have it for you on August 2nd. And since they've just submitted their 30% electrical this week, I don't think that's going to happen.
It's not going to happen. So, you know, I did converse with Holly from GCP, who's been great in all of this, and she's really been leaning on MMT to try to hit their marks. You know, she feels that 2 weeks from tomorrow would be the maximum amount of time that we should give them to complete the 100% drawings. I actually think that's a really realistic deadline, especially since we were supposed to have these things 6 weeks ago.
Technically.
Right.
Technically, the end of that.
Right.
What do we define as 100% with no narrative potentially and no other?
So 100% drawings are actually determined by two things. One, the building official, because the building official has to issue a permit for said drawings. And then the other thing is, are the drawings sufficient enough to put out for bid so that we can actually have a contract with a subcontractor, or in this case, an HVAC contractor, who will give us the system that's on the plans. So, so to answer your question, Jonathan, there's sort of a multi-layered answer. It would be myself, and it would be GCP in this case, who's actually putting the bid out for with the subcontractors.
And The narrative will help in that it will minimize the number of questions from bidders.
Correct.
And otherwise, GCP is going to be a very broad questions that could be answered in narrative. So,
Yeah, then you end up with addendums and whatnot.
yeah, so I would suggest that
Right.
the part of that deadline includes the narrative.
Right.
I am prepared to deliver whatever items, if that's the direction that you want to go, including just separating from them all together. In our meeting yesterday, I said, you know, in my capacity here, I can play this any way you want. I can play good cop. I can do any number of things, but the consensus view yesterday was that I've got to put the hammer down, period. And I'm not sure we talked about giving them a 2-week deadline yesterday, but I do rather like the sound of that. You know, if that's the consensus of this board, that you want me to deliver an ultimatum that you've got 2 weeks from whatever date, or the contract is terminated, period. Now, we did look at the standard long form contract yesterday in our meeting, and remarkable and kind of disappointing for me. Either party can opt out with a simple notice without cause. Section 17 or something like that. Seven. Okay, I knew there was a seven. So, there's a possibility, that we discussed for firm. I don't know what size they are, Jim. I know you said your habit is to visit companies like this before you commit, and you did indeed visit their offices in Rockland. And $49,909 is peanuts for for an architectural services contract. And they just might tell me to go, what my hat, and but at least we'll know. To steal a phrase, it tears the Band-Aid off, and it gives us a much better idea of where we are. What kind of condition are those 100% drawings going to, come back in 2 weeks? And how many corrections? You all have lived through this. I haven't. Okay, so I don't have a clue. But what I know is there's a lot of frustrated people. I hear all this. And Ron told me the public expectations are that something is going to get done, and your personal expectations are, have certainly not been fulfilled here. You're not donating your time here for nothing. You're donating your time, to make a job. So I'd be pleased to follow through on any tack that that you give me today. But I'll do it today. And severing the contract is very simple under the terms of the contract as well. I know the organizational objective is to get this thing done right, and get back on track and get it done smoothly. And that would be my first approach. But if I'm not gonna have an extended conversation with them, it's gonna be, these are the terms right now. This is what you're gonna do for it.
So, if I may, so yesterday I expressed how I felt. I thought it would behoove us to go through it 100%. Since yesterday, Mark and I have gone through more emails, more discussions. It's very frustrating. It's very stressful for both of us. By chance, Brian Patch from Plan B Construction called me today on his way to Nantucket to tell me that he has a week's left of work in Nantucket, and he would like to be at the library the following Monday. So I sent him the drawings at 30%, and I said, can you work off of these drawings? And he said, with your input, absolutely, because we've worked together now for 10 years. He's worked on all kinds of projects in town. So I would have no reluctancy to work with Brian to get some of the interior fit out done with the drawings we currently have. If the committee decided that the ultimatum essentially is we're done and we want.
So that work could occur while we're searching for the.
Exactly, which just happened, an hour and a half, 2 hours ago. So that might help us not making that decision. The only thing that concerns me with this is the mechanical side of things. I would like the town plumber to be involved with some of the plumbing, but the plumbing plans are very vague right now. So, if we were to try to put the plumbing out to bid, I think we might have trouble getting bidders back with an insufficient set of plans. If you wanted to try to work with the town plumber, which is basically a time and materials type of a contract, we could do it that way. But again, I'll have to be more involved in it. I want to be careful about that because I'm supposed to be inspecting this project too. So, we might have to have a discussion and maybe I'd put inspections off to one of my colleagues and we have to pay them for inspections if we want to be more involved with the management side.
Do you have an agreement with other towns?
We have.
It's very common.
Yeah, we have people available, so.
So that it stuff primarily is vacation and sick time filling stuff for you, but
Right,
could evolve into something
and it's happened,
something else like reviewing plans.
it's happened in the past. It's just they're usually paid through the permit fees. There are no permit fees here. So, whether I have the money in my budget and we can absorb it, or if the money will have to come out of the project, we'll have to discuss that. We're not talking about a ton of money though, So that's an option. I really don't have a preference either way. I know I don't like the way it's going right now at all. And I don't feel comfortable that the library is going to get the building that they need. And after 30 years, as you said yesterday, that would be insane to end up with a building that we don't want.
And also what I don't want to do is, so the building is built and then immediately after, a year later, we go back to the town and say, so this wasn't done the way we wanted, this wasn't the way we wanted, we need more money. I am not going to do that. That's not what I want to do. I'm not going to do it. And I don't want to be in a situation where we're stuck with something that we want to see improve, but really can't because we're just stuck with something.
Yeah. So, Jim, thank you. If you're comfortable as the building official, first of all, putting in the time, because there's a lot more time, I assume, than if we had 100%.
Honestly, heard that the health department's off my plate now.
Yes, ma'am. Maybe that money could be used to pay. Is that money available? No, we cut it entirely. But that money that was allocated towards your building, your health department.
That's gone.
That's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah,
It's
so
not
if you're-
our money with me, Ron, you know
I
that,
know,
so.
but if you're comfortable with the time, for one thing, your bandwidth to do it, but also as a building official, if you're comfortable with saying, I can work with the contractor to get the work done and sign up on things that go along, and they have the inspection staff do that separately. But if you're comfortable doing that, that's a gift to us to move things ahead.
Well, that's how we've done things in the past, so it's something that I'm used to doing.
Okay.
It's just that with this particular project, it's a little bit bigger than we've normally done, obviously. It's not Old Town Hall or town hall renovations. It certainly isn't outside my wheelhouse. It's just, I want to make sure that I don't interfere with the timeline. However, I cannot hurt this any more than it's already been hurt. This, if anything, it'll probably go in the opposite direction if we go that route.
So what would you need if we went that path? What would you need? Certainly work closely with Mark, but what do you need in terms of the building committee and the trustees, in terms of frequencies of meeting and input?
Well, just so we fully understand, if you decide to have Mr. Purcell cut ties and count our losses, however you want to look at it. By the way, I would ask what we owe to date, because I have a feeling they're going to try to get as much as they can.
We've spent down 10,000, that's paid.
Right, they ask for another
They want
25.
a little more than 20%.
Yeah, if they ask for another 25,000, then they're gonna give us a little bit better plans, you know?
The money's-
Be obligated to
The
pay
money's in
that.
our accounts and, you know, the cost of their pursuit of accounts receivable,
Okay,
you know,
okay.
what kind of damages can they claim?
Will you be obligated to pay that, given that we're signed on?
They just said no.
Oh, good, thank you.
So that's in his 9 cents a bar, right?
Yeah,
We got the money.
thank you, yes.
So what's the feeling of the other members of the
So
committee?
can I just finish one more point? I just want to make you aware that the HVAC portion of this, if we decide to go a different route, that does have to be engineered. We will have to engineer that because that will have to go out to bid. So if we cut ties with MMT, we will have to re-engage someone else to do that. You know, I know that HVAC is going to, you know, be bounce on the 200,000 all day long, regardless of what we do. So that's going to require a full bid, central register filing, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll need plans for that.
So there, I did look and on Combis, there is a state contract for HVAC. I don't know if it'll meet our needs, but there is one that's open to municipalities and that would speed things along in terms of the bidding process. I can send you the link.
Okay.
It may not even be what we're looking for, but it sounded like it was HVAC installation, repair, maintenance.
From a budgetary perspective, though, no one's going to install systems in a building unless they have some type of engineering that was done to design the system for the building.
Yeah, so, yeah, is there a state contract for the engineering piece? That's what we need first. Right?
So what is the consensus of the other members? Should we go and keep calling Mike, my mind?
Okay.
Jim, send a letter, starting tomorrow, okay, 30, assuming we 30%, this 100% tomorrow. A letter given them 2 weeks, and then cut ties in 2 weeks if we don't comply. The possibilities are they're gonna give us something that's poor quality, or they're gonna say it's not worth it. Or do we cut ties now and just move on? So I'd be interested in hearing from the other members as to what their feelings.
May I ask a question? And this comes from being this is my 6th week, so I'm not entirely familiar with the operations here. But I understand that we have a series of peer review contracts that was put out in a menu-like fashion, I guess, a year or more ago. And the town entered into contracts with different parties like Granite City and Western Assumption, I guess, and others. So some peer review people for Conservation Commission, some provide those services. I understand also, without having seen the contracts, they're 1 year in duration, but with renewal options. So on my to-do list, you know, while I'm here, I'm going to counter that, you know, those renewal dates. I didn't know it until this morning, you know, which was well after our meeting yesterday, that MMT is actually on that list. Right. Was that for this project specifically, or are they providing peer services elsewhere?
Well, both Mark's on it. Mark, if you want to jump in, that's fine, not Tavares, because Mark and I served on that committee. So the idea was to have MMT at our disposal for not just this project, any project that would come up in the future that fit the bill. It's clear now to me that this will be their first and last.
Okay,
So,
yeah, so
yeah,
fit, so is leveraging for when I speak with them. I don't know how many billable hours they've gotten under other peer services, or is this it?
Zero that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Yes.
so the threat of the loss of additional income beyond the $39,000 or $40,000 that's left on the table here is really not a threat.
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
We're
Thanks for
not
letting me know.
building a new school.
Right.
Okay, right, so, right.
But it's a great question, because as you know, you're working with Granite City Partners, who's involved with this project, but you're also dealing with them on Main Street. So they're part of the same program. So, just as you said, Weston and Sampson. So, yeah, so the idea was to have MMT fit that architectural bill, so to speak, but it doesn't seem to be working out.
So just to clarify the ask of Jim, what I'm thinking is we have this meeting, we come to a consensus, and then Jim agreed to call them this afternoon, essentially say, I just came from a meeting of the Library Building Committee trustees, and they're disappointed, unhappy, frustrated, anxious about this project. And we need to get 100% plans. And let's talk about how that's gonna get done, and then give them a deadline. That's, and then a letter would follow.
You just said it better than I did.
So,
That was pretty good. I wish I had the recorded one.
The urgency, I just came from a meeting, marching orders.
Oh, I'm gonna speak in the third person forward, believe me. They are.
so in the meeting that we had on the 20th, I believe it was June 26th, they laid out specifically what they would provide in terms of when they would have the 30%, the narratives, the ADA question, all of that. And I think my personal opinion is it makes sense to go back to draft the letter that goes back to the points that they brought out in that meeting. Because that was when they laid out that timeline. We all thought that was a great meeting. I think most of us would agree. We thought we came away from that feeling there was a lot of promise. And hence the meetings that have happened. This is the third meeting since then already to try and move forward with really very little from that. I think it makes sense to draft a letter that brings out all of those points from that meeting. And since you failed to meet.
Time is of the essence. What I do know is that on the standard contract form, I can cut ties with them without getting released, period. So I'm gonna take the shortcut.
So
9 times out of 10, I would agree with you, but in this instance, time is of the essence, and I've got a shortcut built into the contract, and that's the path I'm gonna take.
do we, then I guess the question I would still ask, and I'm a little bit confused here still, is do we still need to find someone, another firm, who can get us to that 100% threshold?
Just for the HVAC.
Okay.
Working with Brian Patch, who's already under contract, by the way, with us for contractor services. I'm confident that I can get the rest of the project done with him. And the reason I say that is, MMT was providing us storefront details, et cetera, which is great. And that's what they should be doing. But we have the owner of Somerset Glass who lives in town, who does that all day long. So I don't need to tell him how to build a storefront. He knows exactly what needs to be done to build the storefronts that we need for the petitions in the building. So I think we can eliminate the need for full 100% detailed drawings and use the people that we've been using right along for all of our projects.
You know what, for HVAC stuff, I did 2 stints in Swansea as an interim. And we had HVAC issues with the brand new police station. They still call it brand new, it was 5 years old.
Yeah.
Getting balance at the system. And a town resident, Dominic, something, he volunteered some help, and then shortly after that, I took him on because I had HVAC issues in several town buildings, and I'll track down the name of the party. You've probably got 10 people that you can call, but I can tell you that I wouldn't put out a bid in Swansea for any HVAC repairs without his preparing spec or doing
Right.
some sort of review.
So I think that's
on it for us.
That's a great idea. The reason why I'm reluctant to call any of my contacts is they're going to want to bid on it. So I can't lean on them for their design.
So why
Right,
don't I reach out to Swansea? I'll find out the guy's name.
that would be good.
I don't mean to digress too much, but we hire people to be senior center directors. We hire people to be fire chiefs. We hire people to do things. In Swansea in those days, they had all these front-end responsibilities. They knew that they had a bad HVAC system. So a department head with a master's degree in gerontology or something like that, having to, produce some sort of bid document and stuff. So I got I got all those people front-end help, in doing those things. That's why those projects lingered. But in the HVAC, I had 4 or 5 jobs funded, but unstarted because the personnel didn't know how to do it. Okay. It's not what we hired. Right, you know,
Yeah.
so maybe
Yeah,
I
that would be helpful, I appreciate that. And none of us could foresee this, we had a great committee, when we vetted all these firms. We had a good rubric that we followed, we had some good brainstorming sessions, so I'm a little bit at a loss of how this came to be, because we thought we had the best company.
we're the poor stepchild here, 49,909.
Yeah.
We're the poor stepchild here. They've got other jobs that are taking a priority over this. It can't come to, without having all the facts, it can't come to.
So
any other
is the
conclusion.
real question then whether we give them 2 weeks to produce 100% and then what is 100%, or do we just in effect sever? Is that really what we're looking at?
I think that's what we're at.
That's where the call may go, but I'll repeat what I said earlier. The organizational objective is to get this thing back on track, and that's gonna be my first. That's gonna be my first try. And if I find that they're talking over me while we're trying to have a conversation, or they're dodging, I've only attended, it's only my second meeting of yours. I came away being impressed with everybody except your architect, and I wasn't privy to the performance issues and things before. Didn't I say that to you? So you've got a problem. And, I may end up telling you by day's end, I told them send in what they've got, and we own it. And
And that is in the contract too, any documents produced after a contract is severed belong to the town of Dayton.
So can I try a motion, because we'll need a motion from the committee and from the trustees. I think this is what we're looking for, so. The motion would be for the interim TA to call Chris DiFilippo at MMT this afternoon to express the disappointment, frustration, and anxiety about the lack of progress in submitting architectural plans. The committee and trustees authorizes the interim TA to use his judgment to either terminate the contract if they are unable to meet an August 15th deadline for 100% plans. So I can read it again, but that's.
you wrote down what you said so well before, and I'm stealing that. Is a cheat
Well,
sheet.
everybody has a motion. You
I
can
am,
read the motion,
I am.
you can read the motion.
But I want to take that as.
But I don't know
my
if you want-
cheat sheet. I do.
We want Jim to use his judgment on where, because that's what we just said.
Yeah,
This is a
I think if you
conversation.
stop, I would move the motion if you stopped at judgment, because I think Jim needs to be able to have the ability to either give them the 2 weeks or not give them the 2
Sure.
weeks.
So use his,
What happens if we give them 2 weeks and they give us really crap?
That's a
Then we're
real
still-
risk.
Then we're still in paying them for not really great.
Right. That's a good point.
Because
I would,
That's the part that I don't like either.
tomorrow
Yeah.
or see ya. Yeah.
Oh,
I don't like the concept there that if they're gonna give us 100%, I'm gonna theoretically go back to what they said in June that they would do. But what they really give us is 60%, and then they said they bill us for 100% and said, well, then you gave you 100%. Do the math there, that's, $20,000-$25,000 that the town's still on the hook for, according to them, that we can't afford to part with. I'd rather give you the option to sever.
I think I'm leaning towards that also, so I'd be interested in Mark Tavares's and Nicole's feeling on this. Yes, Mark.
I think giving them the 2 weeks is fine, but that's just my opinion.
Could you repeat that? I didn't catch the beginning of that, Mark.
I think giving them the 2 weeks is fine.
Okay. Nicole?
So far, they haven't stood up to anything that we wanted, and I would say we just sever ties now. But it's completely up to you guys. I just want to support whatever decision you make, but I just don't see them coming up with anything in 2 weeks, but I do see them seeing reasons to bill us additionally for work that's hasn't been up to standard.
Make it Nicole.
That's a good point, Nicole. That raises another possibility, I don't think it's been raised yet. What if they say, oh, yeah, we can absolutely meet in 2 weeks, and then we wait for 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks come and go, and then nothing. Well, that means we've lost 2 weeks on the project.
Or they give us something crappy. And then.
Right. I mean, yeah.
What do you think? They have a reputation that I assume they care about, but maybe they don't care about what Dayton thinks has done that. I'm inclined to give them, I was prepared for the end of August, I like 2 weeks from today, and just see what they say. If they don't deliver on it, it's 2 weeks we've been waiting, we're more than 2 months beyond this. I think the key is to convey the fact, because they may not realize it, but we've had it, the committee has had it, and the trustees have had it, and they've got to deliver, because you can choose the words you want. Disappointment, frustration, and anxiety are kind words. I'm frankly pissed off, right? And so, I think you lead with that and just say, well, I just remember a meeting, they're just like, they've had it. And they need something, you've got 2 weeks, and if you can't do it, if you tell me now you can't do it in 2 weeks, but I would just see what they say, and then you say, okay, if you can't do it in 2 weeks, then we're done.
I like the idea of having Jim say that we want to sever. Because I think if Jim says we want to sever, one of two things is going to happen. Either they're going to say, okay, we get it, fine, we're not going to fight you over the difference between 30 and 100% because this is small for what we do. Or they're going to say, we don't want you to sever, give us 10 days and we're going to give you everything you need at 100% of what we said we would do. I think, let's put the ball in their court and do it that way. So let's sever and see if they want to sever, that says a lot right there. If they don't fight it, that tells us a lot. That's more than we need to know, that they wouldn't come through with it anyway.
The committee wants to sever, and I'm telling you here and now that you need to give me a good reason, not to follow through on that. You need to tell me on this call. I have the authority. I can tell them I have the authority to keep this thing alive or sever now, and your job is to tell me why I shouldn't sever. And it's likely to be kind of a short call. I think
that makes
I
sense.
think that's a good approach.
Another track to take maybe is to hold them to task on the deadline that they said they could provide for us for 100% drawings being tomorrow, and be like, so are they coming tomorrow? It's a deadline they provided.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, they haven't provided, the 2 weeks is something that we're suggesting, but by the most recent deadline they provided, we should have them tomorrow. And I haven't heard they haven't said, oh, we need another week or so. Holly's timeline that she handed out to everybody was based on getting the 100% plans tomorrow. That's what her timeline was based on.
But I think that's also part of, that's the same thing.
Well, I mean, what I'm saying, we can lead with, that's something Jim could lead with. We're expecting this, and there are some serious issues, and that could be the lead.
Unclear now. Unclear now. I'll manage the conversation. There's no question what the feelings of the board members are. And there's no question that sometimes we might have to take a sidestep or a step back, to regain traction and get this thing going. So whether we lose 2 weeks' time waiting for them to deliver on promised 100% plans, or if we use that time in search of a replacement architect, our time may be better used searching for a replacement architect than 2 different times. So I think just talk me out of a grace period of, I think we're all talking about a 2 week grace period, but I don't think I'll ever.
So Ron, do you want to redo the motion and we'll take out the 2 weeks?
Yeah, I would just, if in your conversation with Chris, if he says, can I get back to you tomorrow? That would be a hard, fast deadline. He says, I need to talk to my team and make sure.
Well, unless he delivers 100% plans.
Right.
No, it's over.
Yeah.
It's over.
Unless
Unless he delivers the 100% plan tomorrow, I mean, then he would still meet his deadline.
When did you tell them, when did you agree to an extension? Because May 24th was the drop dead date.
We never did.
Agreed to an extension.
They just never submitted.
They just changed the dates.
The date, the last time they
They
gave
just kept
dates,
delaying.
the last time they gave the dates was at that June 26th meeting.
So technically, that's not an authorized.
And actually, so in the bullet points that I
We
sent
didn't
you,
contest it either.
Okay.
We didn't contest
and
it.
the bullet points that I sent you, Jim, have all their missed deadlines
Okay.
in it. So you can just read that. Go back.
But the latest written date deadline is tomorrow,
Yes.
so.
Which is what Holly based everything else off of.
Okay. All right, I got it.
So where's this motion? Okay. Because I start out by just saying that we authorize Jim to express the disappointment, frustration, and anxiety about the lack of progress in submitting the plans. And so the second part is, and that we authorize Jim to terminate the contract if they are unable to meet the August 2nd deadline.
I like that.
But the word authorize is good because that's not a directive.
Right.
You're authorizing me to do
On our behalf.
what I have to do on the committee's behalf. But you're not directing me to do that. That gives me a little bit of play.
Does somebody make that motion, Ren?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on the motion?
I just have one question. It's not really to do with the motion, but under Granite City's contract, I believe when we, under that umbrella contract, that they can provide architectural and engineering services as well, right? Tim?
Yeah, you're OPM, you're right.
Yes, but I did ask Holly yesterday if they would be able to facilitate any gaps if MMT were terminated. And she said she could, but there would be some limitations on what she could do for us. So I think we would have to have an in-depth conversation with GCP, see what they could infill, and then we would still have to go out for some things. It's a
Okay,
good-
that's
Any other discussion? I'll call for a roll call vote. Start with Ron.
Ron O'Connor, aye.
Mark Crockett, aye.
James Aguirre, aye.
Campuchico, aye.
Jonathan Gale, aye.
Jim?
Jim Purcell, aye.
Mark Tavares?
aye.
Nicole?
Aye.
Passes unanimously.
Okay, we'll do the rest of the same motion.
Okay, I make the motion, same motion. I second.
Okay, we'll vote. Any discussion? So, okay, Ron O'Connor, aye.
And Mike Sally, Rita Russo, aye.
So was Mark's question about giving Holly a heads up about the conversation that you're planning?
Holly,
Is that-
no, Mark was asking if
I didn't think so,
GCP could infill some of the architectural services that we would lose by terminating MMT.
So that's what prompted my thought was whether we give Holly a heads up. Certainly, even before or after call, doesn't matter, but
I already did.
you already did. All right.
I don't go into a gunfight without a gun.
No, that's good, thank you.
What did they say in touch show up to the grand fight with a knife or something? Something like that.
All right, well, thank you, Jim.
Okay, wait that far.
Actually, it's not this Jim, but I thank you.
No, that's all right.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you, committee and trustees. This is a turning point, I hope.
So the next agenda item, which was added, is additional funding opportunities, which hopefully is good news.
Well, yes, it's something, so Ron and I had a conversation earlier today, but I just want to, I'm thinking I'm going to apply for a $50,000 grant and each shovel already got.
Excuse me, do you need to leave, Jim?
I think I should.
Okay,
I think I should.
yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah.
I'm not calling you off, but I know you have.
I'm the last one to show and the first one to go. Huh?
There are a lot on your plate, so.
Yeah, but I
I understand.
I'm gonna go line up that call right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. If you hear anything, you let us know.
I think, Mark, you have the better line of sight for the white flag. Maybe you want to.
Jim, on the other matter that you and I have been speaking about, did you get a call?
He called me. Yes, thank you
So
very
you're all
much.
set.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And then Jim, After the meeting, I'm gonna be covering children's, so if you want to check, I'll be actually in the town hall building, in the children's section.
All right, very good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Yes, so I did come across a $50,000 grant that for community projects. They require shovel-ready documents. We'll have, I mean, it's already built, so I'm gonna, it never hurts to apply. So I will be pursuing that. Best case scenario, $50,000. Worst case scenario, 0.
Right.
Maybe something in between, who knows, but
Do you have any grant parameters? Is it wide open or?
it's community
Okay.
community spaces, which is something technically like considering the library is fractured. The narrative the point I'm gonna make is library is fractured, now we're gonna have a full building, that's gonna be a new addition to a community space. That's what I'm gonna make.
So do you need to hone in on a specific area in
Yeah.
the library?
I had an email out to the granting agency to see how, just sort of gauge how strong the application could be and if it needs tweaking or what to focus on. So when I get feedback, I'm gonna go from there. And then Ron, do you want to talk about our conversation?
Well, another thought was, and Jonathan, you can help with this, there's another cycle for the ALA funding. I know we're on hold with being able to apply for that until we complete the work on the other, but I just want to keep that in mind as I'm sure you have already. So
It's already,
that's on our list. Of
yeah,
thoughts.
there's 2 different types of cycles for ALA. So just to back up for a minute, I did send an email to the contact we have with ALA right now for extending our grant. And I just got out of office on vacation, so there's nothing I can do until she gets back next week.
Okay.
But I expect it won't be a problem because they offered us an extension before.
Sure.
There are a couple of other ALA grants that are coming down the pipe. We can revisit the same one again. I don't think we would get approved right now because we haven't even exhausted what we have.
Right.
But there are other ALA grants for additional construction that are coming up. And I just have to get them, literally just got the email yesterday when I was flying home yesterday, so I haven't read it yet. But there are 2 that are for construction costs, for renovations or new construction. And I think they may each have $100,000 attached to them.
Good.
So I'll explore those and then Mark, I'll connect with you next week.
For sure.
Together on that.
For sure.
And look at those
And
too.
then, yeah. So in the fundraising context, it was more the general kind of fundraising that we started a conversation about last time, which was getting donations of funds that's targeted to a particular entity piece within the library itself. And one thought is whether we can use some of the library funds to hire a fundraising consultant, if that's the best path to do, so that we're doing it right and efficiently. And having been through a fundraising experience many years ago that it was didn't end well with, because the process we used was questioned. But nevertheless, I just want to make sure we do it right. But we worked very closely with the Friends did a lot of work, and then we're challenged on our right to do it that way. So I'd rather, and I think Jocelyn and the trustees, I don't know if it predates two of you, but we did either talk about hiring a fundraising consultant, or we had one for a short time. It's probably in the earlier building cycle. Nevertheless, that would be my recommendation. We can kind of brainstorm ideas, but it would be better to just bring somebody in who may be able to guide us on some of the, for example, I know Middleborough has this brick thing. We can buy a brick. Is that
Lakeville has that too.
Lakeville is too. So how much revenue does that generate, or is it just a nice thing to do? Gets buy-in, and people, Middleborough lets you get a mini brick that you can keep on in your house.
Yeah, Canton has that.
Yeah, so those are ideas, but I don't even know if we have a fundraising goal. I think but those are the kinds of things maybe we can talk about, and I think we had an expert who could walk us through it. That might be the best path.
There's also the golf tournament coming up in September.
Yeah.
There's also for the fundraising side of it, I think if we could get hold of somebody who has a background to come in and at least have a conversation with us. about the different types of fundraising, because there's the fundraising for, as you said, for example, to whether you're doing bricks or dinners or, you know, symphony night, whatever you want to call it, that kind of fundraiser. And then the other fundraisers are the grants. And sometimes you can have professional grant writers come in and they will take an administrative cut to write the grant, assuming it's funded. If it's not funded, they don't get anything. But those are the folks that have more leads because it's what they do 24/7. So that might be a way, something to look at too, is to bring somebody in who can do some of the grant work. Not because Mark can't do it or I can't do it, anybody else here can, but because that's all they do.
Sure.
So I think it's
Mara Didi, who used to be the executive director, is now doing consulting.
Okay.
From my view of her website, didn't look like she was doing fundraising consulting, but the kind of consulting that she does, she would have to have connections to someone. So we could start there. Mark, you could just reach out. Because I don't have a name. And that I would think MBLC has people who you can talk to other libraries as well. I was in the Seekonk Public Library recently, and they have the Seekonk Library Trust. That's an instrument that we could down the road and want to replicate, but we're not. Let's not fight about that for the short term. For the short term is let's just see, because it gets community buy-in. It also signals when we get to that point where we say, yeah, we've got a date and we're ready. It says now's the time for you to get on board. We had really good success with getting pledges, and you can just cash pledges without any attachments when we did this 15, 16 years ago. So I think we just need a consultant to help us do it, and where the funds would go into that gift account. What we did at the time, just for the background, is the money ended up going into a bank account with the friends, and that was the problem.
There's an organization out of Boston, which is actually national. They have offices in cities called Associated Grant Makers, and they're nonprofits, and they work with all kinds of people. Probably, maybe a little bit. I think if everybody's interested, I can reach out to them and see if we can get somebody to come maybe in September, October, and speak to us. Because right now we've got other things we're dealing with. But to come and speak to us in person by Zoom and kind of give us an education about what they could offer.
That's a great idea. Yeah, I'm familiar with them.
That's okay.
I'm trying to pivot the committee and the trustees away from, since Jim has taken it on his shoulders, so to speak, and I think if we can entrust a lot of that nitty-gritty to you and to Mark, we can move on to some of the more critical things that we can show progress in other streams. We've got the building stream, but we can also do the funding stream. I think that's the important part for the committee and the trustees.
Well, it's another way to stay proactive and future funding. I think that's really what you're.
Yes.
For the future funding sources for expansion or development or programmatic.
My only concern in listening to all this is I think these are all great ideas, and I think the public will do whatever they can to help. I think they need to see some progress. Or else they're just going to think they're throwing money at the wind. And I think it's important for us to time that appropriately, where we can say things are being done on the inside, but I can't let them in there to see that. But if the ramp were going in, or things were being done on the outside, or the new front stairs were put on, the pillars, then that would show people that there's progress.
We also, when things are being done inside, take pictures and put it out, so that they do. Someone asked me today, one of the kids from DP coming back. I said, oh, not yet, they're still out of school, so.
That would only be if they enter another contract with us.
We didn't get time.
Something getting back to that, I know you mentioned earlier at the beginning about, I think you were going to speak to the Board of Selectmen for an update on the 14th, but potentially what happens with Mr. Cassell's phone conversation might to some extent dictate what can be said or not said.
I think we need to be honest. If the architect is terminated, then they're terminated.
You're open and transparent. You're not transparent, people think you're hiding something.
No, absolutely, that's why.
Well, I think it's important, and I wasn't thinking of this necessarily in the context of the update for the selectmen, but I think it's important to, what's progress on the building, the work that needs to be done. what's progress on raising funds for two reasons, not that we necessarily need the funds, but they're nice to have. They can add amenities that we haven't considered. And then there's progress on, say, a piece, the other stream that I was thinking of. About the grand openings celebration kind of thing, because it's not just a one day cut the ribbon thing. I think, you know, Mark's great at organizing programs and presentations. I think we have a grand opening series of events that kind of highlight the new library. And so that's part of the fundraising. We could raise funding to pay entertainers or speakers that we might not always have funds for. So I think to be able to convey, we're making progress on the building, the work that needs to be done to get it ready for opening. There's some speed bumps along the way, but we're also engaged in work on raising funds for amenities that sort of fall outside the bounds of what we already have plans for. And then last, we're getting ready for the events at which the celebration will happen. I extended an invitation to Congressman Auchincloss when he was here to say they'd certainly be invited into Senator Pacheco's and Representative Haddad's aides. Let them know. So we're planning, I think those are what I see as the three planning streams that we're in right now. Maybe this is another one, but well, there's also just the whole communication to the community. So everything's like on hold because we've got this glitch. And if we can move past that, then we're ready to move. But at least we can do planning around those things without initiating. It's a good point. You don't want to start asking people for money. We have lots of pledges of $1,000 or I think that's what we're asking for the old library plan, and there were pledges and people didn't cut checks, and then when it failed, it was done. Other people had cut checks and then they asked for money back. But we want to have something solid. We know this is going to happen, but it's the way.
Just a point of order, Nicole.
I got that, yep. Yep.
Okay. She said she was raised.
Yeah, no, let's
Yeah.
All right, I got that.
Thank you. Any other discussion on funding? If not, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 25th. Has everybody had an opportunity to read those minutes? So I'll entertain a motion. All right. I'll make that.
Do I go on minutes? Is the date wrong on minutes or is the date? I have minutes here July 23rd. Maybe I could be wrong on that.
Those were the ones that I printed out. I didn't see any for July 25th.
That may have been a mistake on my part.
Yeah.
When was the last meeting? Was it 25th? I can make that correction. It was 25th or 23rd. I'll make the correction.
My phone.
Whichever it is.
Whatever it is, I'll make sure it's right on the minutes.
Thank you.
It was the 25th.
25th, it was 25th, right. So if I dated it incorrectly on the minutes, I'll make that correction.
We met twice.
It could have been, it could have been. We had a lot of meetings.
Yeah.
Well, whatever the last minutes were, I will make sure it's correct on the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll make that motion. Date correction. Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any further discussion?
I saw your hand go up, John.
Okay. If not, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Start with line.
Ron O'Connor, aye.
Mark Crockett, aye.
James Diane, aye. Ken Pacheco, aye.
Jonathan Gale, aye.
Mark Torres, aye.
Passes. Do you have any trustees?
I guess we have the trustees, yes.
Okay, I make a motion that we accept the corrected dated last meeting minutes.
I second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Ron O'Connor, aye.
And myself.
Rita Russo, aye.
Next meeting. I don't think we're going to wait 2 weeks. We're going to meet next week. I'm not here.
Well, I think we should know what the outcome is by the end of the day.
I despise you.
Oh, no, you should be open by Monday.
I do not like so. I will not be so lenient. So it'll be August 8th if we're going to stay with Thursdays. Do we want it at 1 o'clock or do we want it later?
I won't be here at 1 o'clock. I'll get it down the street.
And we have a trustees meeting
Well,
at,
can you zoom in?
We have a
Every
first-
week?
That's right, that's right.
we have a trustees meeting at 3.
So what was the date?
Yeah,
What time?
ours is at 3.
So we end up at 1. We just stay.
We'll just stay and push on through.
You're saying two?
So if we have a 2, then
Yeah.
No.
should be around.
That's your.
Hopefully I'll be told.
We would have to have that trustees meeting in Children's,
Yeah.
because Lori's leaving, I mean, I would,
Yeah.
I need to say.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine.
So I wouldn't be able to stay here. Okay, all right,
No, we'll be fine.
okay.
So we're still blocked over here, okay?
Yeah. Wait. No, I have to cover Lori at 2. So if it ends at 2, then it'd be fine. Chappy meeting over there?
Is there any reason we can't?
Any reason you can't have it at children's library?
No, we can have it, just, do you have a lot of visitors that,
Mark, Tavares, do you need to zoom into next week's meeting? Because that would be a problem.
What's the date? The 8th?
yes,
I will not be in town.
okay.
No, that's my mistake. No, I'm sorry. Phyllis is on vacation. No, there will be no issues next week. That's my apologies. No issues next week.
So
You
here
can
at
have
2
it.
o'clock.
That was my mistake.
I will try.
Yes.
3 o'clock or whatever,
Yep.
2 o'clock?
children's.
2 o'clock and then 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock
for
at
trustees.
the children.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
But I have to adjourn one trustees meeting and then call to order. So
You'll be fine. We have bilingual brains.
I think you can just.
Not saying it right is correct.
I think you can just continue your meeting, right? No, you have to-
So there won't be any issue. That was my mistake. Phyllis is on vacation this week.
What do we do?
But she's back next
Have to have
week.
2 locations, 3 locations.
Oh,
Here,
okay, that's right.
here, and then walking over to there.
Is that an issue or not?
No, it's not an issue. I was mistaken. I was mistaken. Yes, that was my mistake.
Perfect.
Yes.
Next meeting is August 8th, 2 o'clock.
Mhm.
Okay. Is there anything else? Not, entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second. Roll call vote, Ron.
Ron O'Connor, aye.
Mark Crockett, aye.
Jim Gallagher, aye. Ken Pacheco, aye.
Jonathan Gale, aye.
Mark Tavares, aye.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Motion
I
to
make a
adjourn.
motion to adjourn the trustees meeting.
Second,
Okay, Ron O'Connor, aye.
yeah, my time.
We were realized.
Welcome to abstain.
Second meeting.
Doesn't matter.
Thank everybody.
Thank you.
Enjoy your vacation. Thank you.
Feel better? Me too.
Yeah.
This has been frustrating.
This is called making a move on.
You move it day to day.
Yes.